I became a Christian when I was 3.
I became a Christian when I was 5 years old, apparently. At Sunday school, I made a commitment to Christ.
Jesus was just my friend for as long as I can remember.
I was about 8 or 9.
I was about 11.
Probably the first time I went and saw Survivor, and I was like, this is what I want to do.
At Spring Harvest, and they were just doing a bit of an altar call, really, and just, yeah, it was just a group of us that decided to go up, and that was it, really. I kind of knew then it wasn't really a big sing-song. I was like, oh yeah, I do believe in God, I'm Christian, yeah, that's it.
Being taken to church by my parents, and eventually looking into it and thinking about it for myself and going, you know what, yes, this seems right.
I think I always believed, but it was a definite walking away from God and then coming to him again, a bit like prodigal son sort of thing.
I remember just singing in the worship one night and just started crying and crying and crying because I suddenly felt that really strong conviction that Jesus had died for me.
Met friends at university who were Christians, joined the Christian Union, just sort of tagged along. And I heard the message again, and it sort of sunk in.
I came to know Christ myself through a sort of a very much an overt evangelism, Youth for Christ rally.
I was standing in the worship in a giant tent, and I looked around at thousands of people, thinking, they can't all be mad. There's something in it. And it's realising that you don't have to have everything figured out. I think that was a big part of it for me, being quite an analytical person, realising that head and heart knowledge don't have to necessarily match. You don't have to have all the answers.
I come from a Hindu background, went through a crisis, needed God's forgiveness, and the only place that I could find it was in Jesus Christ. And that's how I became a Christian.
My wife, really, didn't come from a church family at all, but she did. And I ended up going to church with her. Her dad was a lay reader, and there's the old phrase that when you go to church you get sucked into the rotas, and I certainly did, and here I am.
Back in 2013 I wanted to get married and had to go to church for 13 weeks because I was out of the parish, and I never left.
Last year I went through a really terrible time. I actually was ready to take my own life. I sat on a motorway bridge, and as I was walking on the bridge, there was no one about. Once I climbed over the railings, all of a sudden a man appeared out of nowhere, and he stopped me from jumping. And that's when I realised, God's real. God must be real, because that bloke was nowhere to be seen, and all of a sudden he's popped out of nowhere. And then since then, I've decided to come to church, and it's the best thing I've ever done.
The short version is that I slipped a disc in my neck, couldn't drive my own car, friend brought me to an Anglican church, I met Jesus.